Welcome to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. I'm your host, renowned sex and relationship coach, Amanda Testa. And if you are looking to reclaim your sexual desire, take sex from a to-do to something you look forward to, and enjoy deeply connected relationships without adding more to your already full plate, then you are in the right place. Listen in to discover how to fan the flames of your feminine fire, fall in love with your sensual self again, and experience intimacy like never before, all in a way that feels really good to your system. Make yourself comfortable and enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Have you ever wondered what happens when women flock together with purpose? 82% of women feel more empowered when part of a supportive community. So if you are a woman seeking personal growth, adventure, and genuine connections, then get ready to spread your wings. You're going to love this week's episode. I am your host, Amanda Testa, and I am thrilled today to introduce you to the visionary founders of Hey Birdie, a revolutionary women's empowerment organization. Welcome, Jess, Linsley, and Heather Bauman. Welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here today. They are the founders of Hey Birdie, and they live here in Denver, and they are just wonderful, wonderful humans. And I am thrilled to talk with you today. And we're going to be diving into all the good things about community, connection, and how it's so healing and empowering. So welcome, ladies.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Every time someone does one for us, I'm like, oh, we should write that down.
Well, I love, they always have a play on bird puns, which is really fun. I'm curious, maybe, is there a reason why that you love the bird puns so much, or just for fun?
I think fun is part of it for sure.
Yeah.
As far as being punny and adding levity to life, we definitely need it. So yeah, part of it's fun.
Part of it, though, is hugely based on the mission of Hey Birdie and why we chose that term, that name, as an inspiration, mimicking nature and how birds fly in bee formation to be safe together and to be in community and to take care of each other, that the lead bird is not always holding that space and doesn't relinquish it necessarily on her own. The birds in the back of the V sense that the lead bird is tiring and naturally replace and allow her to move to the back to rest. And that's our inspiration of our flocks and how we want women to feel when they're in community with Hey Birdie.
I love that so much. I think the rhythms of nature are so healing and just remind us of our wholeness and that we too are part of nature. And I think in our culture today, we are very disconnected from that. And especially as mothers or as women identifying humans navigating all the things, we feel very isolated a lot of times. So I would love if you would share a little bit about what led you to create Hey Birdie in the first place. And I feel like that community connection is so key and love the work that y'all are doing. So yeah, share more about that if you don't mind.
Thank you. It all started way back when,
Once upon a time.
universe brought Jess and I together when our youngest were going to play school. And we were very much stuck in our roles of mother and professional with the side hustle and doing all the things and not feeling completely fulfilled. So we ran into one another one day and shared such. And with a mutual friend, created our first women's group in which we would commit to gathering once a month and exploring the things that we were still curious about, that we wanted to experience or learn more of or share in some capacity. And also gather with women in a way that felt true and purposeful. Not another book club, not another running club, but a place where we could come and really talk about the shit that needed to be talked about and feel safe doing so. So that women's group is still going strong. It's debatable. It's on the table all the time. But what is time? So let's just say many years ago, that was created. 3 years ago, we started Hey Birdie and began one of our favorite programs called Flight Club that was inspired by the cadence and the format of our women's group.
And I love the visual when Heather says we ran into each other, because in my mind, it's like total smash into each other. And in some ways, I think it was, Amanda, in that we'd been navigating around each other in our school drop-offs and speeding in and out to do the thing. And I really feel like what the universe did for us in creating a pause, because we were assigned a volunteer day together, and it was like, slow down. And then when we created that other women's group, and with Hey Birdie, it's an invitation to our women to pause. It's 2 hours a month that we invite you to pause and do something for yourself. And so I love that because in my mind, it's like a total crash. And it feels that way when we do invite women to the conversation of how to pause for once a month for 2 hours.
I love too that y'all are such good friends and that you've created this together. I'm wondering if you would share a little bit about how that's been, working together and being able to do it not alone, right? Have each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want to say on that? I'm like, my brain's popping around everywhere. I think in some conversations, people think that we are married.
This has come up. Yeah.
Because of the way, our children are similar ages. We work together, we play together. I'm trying to do a better job of qualifying her as my business partner, not just my partner, but really she is my partner. And I think that if both of our husbands were on this call, they'd be like, yeah, this is the marriage. We're the periphery.
I'm not really even sure where she's going with
that. And so within that, the friendship and the marriage, like marriage is not easy. I'd say this marriage is easier than my male marriage, but marriage isn't easy and running a business isn't easy. And so for us, there's been practice in having the hard conversations and communicating in ways that we might not be comfortable in the other contracted marriage.
Yeah. We've also talked about the fact that part of our business is our relationship. It's kind of on display. And it's the feedback that we get as far as the dynamic and the strength of our relationship is inspiring. And we hold that very sacred. And we acknowledge that we're friends and we're having a business, and the business is kind of about business and relationships. So some might say it's stacked against us to succeed, right? Like we're taking on a big fucking feat to be on display in this way. But we really believe that that's part of the work. Like it's part of showing up. In fact, in the times that we have had some conflict with each other, we had to dig really deep into the scary things to really share what it was that we were feeling and thinking, and the crazy critical talk that was happening in our minds, and be vulnerable and share that and see one another through it. And it's been a beautiful thing. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yes. Y'all are so inspiring. And I love all of the energy that you two share and just put out there. It gives a lot of permission to the people that come to your gatherings to be able to just dive right in and be vulnerable and be silly, because you are both a lot of fun as well. I've had the pleasure of joining some groups, and it's so great. And it also goes right along with your values, right? Like connection, curiosity, compassion. Can you share a little bit more about your core values and how they shape your offerings?
Yeah.
I'm going to say curiosity.
Okay.
It's just an expansion of our relationship. I think that's so much of what we bring to the table, is that Jess can bring her crazy ideas and I help to give space for them, and vice versa. Like I'll share the weirdest shit I think that no one should probably hear with Jess. And she sees it and witnesses it and actually makes something of it. So having each other in that space to really continue to be curious on the daily is what's been so fulfilling in our personal and professional lives. And that's what we think we don't get enough of. And in fact, it's part of the challenge of our business is inspiring women to invest in themselves as an individual, not in their profession, not in their role as mother, not in whatever, but in themselves, and really finding that space to unpack or peel back the layers of who they are and to fucking celebrate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I find that so much, especially with moms or caregivers, is that they are really good at taking care of everyone else and put themselves at the bottom of the list. I work with so many clients that are in that transition period, either of just like having a baby or moving on now the kids are older and they're like, oh, now what? Or just those times where you're taking a toll on your life and you're like, okay, wait a minute. I have like literally spent 0 time on myself. Who am I? And all of that. It's so common for women.
Curiosity feels like it's the first thing to slide off the list of enjoyments. And what we found when we first started our women's group is that since it was the first thing to slide off, we weren't doing it. But if we did it in community with connection, then you were like accountable. If, okay, it's on the calendar for the same date and time every month, and Heather's going to be there, I can't let her be there alone. So I have to make the commitment to be there. And so that's the connection, is building the community so that within the designated time that Hey Birdie presents for you and invites you to, you know you're not showing up alone and you're being held accountable to show up. And then within that space, you're authentically connecting so that hopefully you're doing 5 other things together in that month before your next Hey Birdie connection.
That accountability is so huge. And it's so much fun to do it. And I think there's also too, when you are in those periods, maybe you feel more isolated in your life, or there's sometimes a loss of confidence of connection. And I think COVID did a big number on people just in general of feeling like, I feel socially awkward now. How do I make friends, or how do I talk to people in a group? And when you have that space to bring that part of yourself forward, it becomes easier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's practice, right? We do this thing called praise party. I was thinking about our praise party the other day. And it's basically when we put a woman on the spot and everyone just showers her with praise. And I've had the pleasure of experiencing a praise party. And I remember the first couple of times that I was praised, I felt so awkward and like, okay, can we get it over with? That's enough. That's too much. Okay, keep going. It was just, right? And recently we did one, and I was so amazed by how much more comfortable I was feeling. I was leaning into why. And I think it's because I'm believing it now. And I think it's so important. And to be able to give this gift to women is beyond a gift.
So key. I love, it is such a challenge to be able to accept a compliment from any. Receiving is so hard. And it is so much fun when you can do it. I love a lot of communities that I'm involved in do a lot of that. It feels so good. But you're right. Like the first time can feel really hard. And it can also bring up a ton, right? So it's like a good opportunity to be like, oh, where's my blocks to letting this in? Or why does it feel so hard? And why do I feel so uncomfortable? Receiving compliments and hearing good things about myself and receiving the praise, right? Or bragging about all the things that I've accomplished in my life, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. It also feels good to the giver of the compliment when someone actually receives it versus being like, oh, what? No, I haven't showered in a couple of days, or no, or I got this dress at the trash station. I don't know, whatever. Right? What is that called when you reverse or deflect a compliment? Mm-hmm. And how like that just hurts the person giving it.
Exactly.
Then segues into our third value of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So to what you were saying, like having compassion for yourself and for others.
The key thing. I just got back I was teaching retreats for a couple of weeks in Costa Rica with one of my mentors, Layla Martin, and we have so much fun. But one of the things that we do is around the compliments, which is kind of a Mama Gina thing. It's like the catwalk, which you probably are familiar with. But it's a similar type of thing where you're just like receiving the goodness, because we have to claim that, right? Because our culture does not give it to us, which we have to have compassion for ourselves in that our culture, it's not one of celebrating women. It is not one of claiming our magnificence. And so many women and women identifying humans feel that like core not enoughness on some level, right? Or just like constantly trying to keep up or never feeling good enough. And it's a endemic because it's just, that patriarchal conditioning that we get. And so I think like coming together in a group and being able to have those experiences where you can connect and have that real experience of being with another human in real life versus just what you might see on social media or all of that, right? Mm-hmm. I love one of the things too that you all do that I really love is, of course, we are huge fans of pleasure over here. Pleasure, Feminine Fire, and y'all are as well. And so I love that a lot of your offerings really infuse pleasure and connection to your sensual self. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about why that's so important or what your thoughts are around that.
Well, as you know, pleasure is our birthright. And creating the space for your desires is really important. So it just goes hand in hand in everything that we do in practicing curiosity and exploring oneself is ensuring that there's a space for desire and that you're worthy of such. So it really fits beautifully into all of our programming.
I think we like to run a spectrum on how we present certain things. And that pleasure can be as simple as the sun on your face. As simple as in like you're deciding to eat a piece of chocolate and you're going to fucking love it and like savor that thing rather than then feel guilty about it. And so we like to peel it back so that it's accessible to anyone that's just starting that journey or on their way in the journey or whatever it might be. And everything that we do is based on, as Heather said, infusing pleasure into our lives. But I think pleasure can be a charged word for some of us that if you're feeling or you haven't experienced pleasure in like the Instagram presented way, you're like, shit, I don't even know where my vulva is. Let's start with chocolate.
Yeah, for sure. That's always the entry point, right? We can only go as fast as the slowest part of us is willing to go. And there is a huge spectrum. And I think that it's just so important because, again, we don't have enough opportunities to explore it. And so the more places where we can come together and realize like, oh, I'm not the one doing this. Hey, it's Amanda. If you are enjoying the show and felt a connection to what we've discussed, and you're ready to take the next step in reigniting your passion and enhancing your relationships, I have something special for you. Visit www.amandatesta.com/thegoods, where you can subscribe to my email. And if you want, you can sign up for a free personalized sensuality discovery session with me. In this one-on-one heart-to-heart session, we'll explore your unique desires, uncover any challenges, and set a path for you to experience the vibrant, fulfilling love life you deserve. Don't let another day pass feeling unfulfilled or disconnection. Take action now, and let's start this beautiful journey together to fire up your feminine fire. Join me at amandatesta.com/thegoods. I'm excited to stay connected. Now back to the show. I'm not the only one exploring this. And sadly, I will say, after doing this work for over a decade and hosting retreats for over a decade, just the difference in body image issues I see with female identifying humans over even a decade has changed so much. And I blame the media and the Kardashians for a lot of it, but there's so much more augmentation and we don't realize what a normal body looks like or sounds like. And I feel like it's really important to be together in real life with other humans so you can see that, because there's so much healing that happens when you realize, oh, wait a minute, all that shit I'm seeing is totally not real. I'm curious if you can share a little bit about what you've seen in your own experiences with your groups about that, like just feeling more, having more confidence in yourself through groups and connection and community.
I'm a big feeler, and I'm practicing being more and more conscious of the energy that I'm feeling and what it means and where it's taking me. And I always talk about our second flight connection. So this is the second time that a flock gets together. And the first time there's nerves, there's all these things, and there's some relief towards the end. But the second time, like they've had a connection and they know that they're safe. So it's so interesting to see how many of the flock take full advantage to just dive in and go there. Sometimes it's 100%. Sometimes it's only one or two that do the big brave thing, or they have an ask, or they share something super vulnerable. But you feel that energy and that second connection shift so significantly that it truly takes my breath away. And I am always so honored to witness it. It's that sense of safety. In fact, the more research we do on birds and our connection to our work, the sound of a bird is an innate signal to your nervous system that you are safe.
In between our first connection and our second, we have what we call an integration exercise. And we invite the women, we pair them together to answer certain prompts on Marco Polo. And to what Heather was saying, that when there are those breakaway pairs that are like, I have found my person, I am in love, there's that inspiration for us to have like, oh, wow, it happened, it worked. And then when I hear of people doing stuff outside of Hey Birdie connections, that just fills my body up with so much love for what we do, because yeah, we want you to show up to the Hey Birdie connection, but what we really want you to do is connect outside of us and make those intentional calls to each other. Or if you've heard that another bird is sick or has lost somebody in their life or struggling, that you reach out to them, that you're not coming through us to ask what to do, that you're working to build those connections that are going to last much beyond your Hey Birdie interactions.
I love that so much. We have to celebrate and create. And it's harder now, I think, too. And especially, I'm curious your thoughts on this, because I don't know if you know, but when I first started Find Your Feminine Fire, that was what I started when I first did my business in like 2014, was creating like fun gatherings. And of course, it evolved from there. But I remember like one of the things that I thought was always so interesting is when we put ourselves into these environments that we might not know what to expect, but we know we're going to be stretched a little bit and we know we're going to laugh. And I'm curious, what kind of helps you decide what you're going to do, or like what experiences you want to bring the flocks into, what kind of experiences you want to give them, what inspires you there, or how do you make your decisions around that?
Amanda, I love your question. I'm going to start it off and then Heather can probably add to it. But our flight clubs, we ask for a commitment of 12 sessions or 12 months, and we curate those experiences for women. And you don't know what you're doing until 36 hours beforehand. You receive an email that indicates where you should be, how you should prepare. And then even still, you don't totally know what's going to happen. There's an introduction to your flight guide and a teaser as to what they will do. And so we're really asking women to lean into us and trust that we've decided that this experience will benefit them in some way. How we go about choosing those is our own curiosities and inspiration and what has empowered us to live the full expression of our lives. And so some of those things might fall within personality assessments, so you can get to know your fellow flock members in a different way. We love this a physical challenge of some sort, and that might be burlesque dancing or contrast therapy. So we're just looking for ways to, like, the experience becomes fifth on the list to what we want connection-wise in step 1, 2, 3, and 4. At the base of everything, the foundation is that you're authentically connecting with your flock, and the experience is just another way for you to be able to do that.
I would add the whole concept of authentic expression and full expression. And in fact, we got some feedback the other day that there was a person that was considering joining Flight Club, and she started following us on Instagram, and she saw us dancing, and she's like, never mind, those aren't my people. I won't do that. So it resonated with me, and that I have had a block in using my body in this way in front of people for a long time. So I think we start in our own conditioning and evolution. We create these like, I'm not going there. I'm not going to do that. I can't sing. I can't dance. I don't move like that. I don't talk in front of people. So what we do in all of our experiences is kind of rub up against those tender edges. And sometimes it's a great fit for someone. They might be like, well, holy shit, I never thought I would enjoy burlesque dancing. Others say, I actually didn't enjoy it, but I'm glad I did it. And I noticed how much Jess enjoyed it. And now I know I have that conscious practice of knowing that it's a tool in my toolbox that I can access if I ever feel called to do it again. But right now I'm just going to put it in my back pocket.
I think having those shared experiences really are inspiring in that way, right? You can see what other people are doing, and that inspires you. It's like, oh, I might not be ready for that yet, but maybe one day I might want to do that. Or you get more clarity about who you are, being like, you know what, that's not for me. And great, at least I tried something new. But I think there is something to when you embark on doing something that is challenging in a group or with someone else, it strengthens your relationship, right? Because you have that shared experience, which I think that's one of the beautiful things about doing these types of things in a group, is because it's going to help build that connection because you have that shared experience, right? So I think it might be fifth down on the list, but it's actually hugely important, and the fun of it and like being curious. And I think that makes the fun, because I do feel like life can get really boring and stagnant, and like you feel like you're just going through the motions. I hear this so many times from women, like, I'm just like going through the motions and it's so boring and blah, blah, blah. I don't even know who I am besides just like a caregiver or a mom or whatever, right? And so it's like, ooh, this can be just something fun. Like, how might it feel to be surprised, to do something surprising and not even know what it's going to be? I want someone to plan that for me, right? How big is that in itself? It's like, I don't want to have to do anything but just show up.
Totally. That sense of trust is something that we do not take lightly.
I want to go back to your question earlier about the connection, like when we see that in our flight clubs, what that lands for us. And it goes to when we hear a woman say, I hated that experience, but I witnessed my flock member in her joy. That's when I feel the most of like, yes, we're going to keep going, because it becomes not so much about like what the experience was in your body, but enjoying witnessing somebody else in their own experience.
And when they keep coming back.
Well, yeah,
then we're like, okay, then we can keep saying it. It wasn't too far. It wasn't too much. I think there's also the element of ritual, and that we don't really emphasize this a lot, but it can be a foreign practice to some initially, as far as our flight clubs gather on the same day at the same time each and every month. And what I love that some of our birds have shared with us is that they can't wait until they get the email. So it becomes this ritual in this 30-day cycle of waiting for the information, feeling into their body or considering what it's going to be like, and then showing up and engaging. So this practice of doing this for yourself on a monthly basis has benefits beyond what we're even sharing, I believe.
And there's that part of like actually doing the thing, the embodiment of it. I'm curious if you would share a little bit more about maybe your personal journey around embodiment and how it it shapes how you show up in your life?
It's a great question.
I had an interesting practice call yesterday with a women's group that I'm a part of. And our initial conversation was share how your practice went. And for so much of my life, practice has been equivalent to physical. And so initially in my answer to that question, I'm like, my practice has not been great. I've been slacking and I was really beating myself up. And then I was like, whoa, wait a second. That's not true, because I interacted in this way with that person. I embodied, internalized what was happening with the masculine and the feminine and met in the seam and then presented or then held in that space. And so much of my life has been like from an athletic point of view of practice, physicality. And I would say that after I stopped nursing my second child is when that started to peel away. And so around like 38 or 39. Wait, how old is my daughter? I don't know. 11. Before that. That's too late. 30s. And then also, how old am I? Peeling away that sense of physical being separate and spiritual, and that everything comes in together. So aligning in a center point of mind, body, spirit, and heart. And it is an embodiment that in a practice and a ritual that I have to tend to every single day.
Mm-hmm. My personal journey has been so much rooted in self-compassion. I have so much compassion for others, but I'm real critical on myself. And so it's a constant practice for me to continue to give myself grace and honor my process and trust myself. So I'm exploring that on a daily basis. In fact, this week I've had a number of things where it was like a lot of energy, like an anger outburst and a thing. And previously, before doing this work, I might have been really ashamed of how I behaved and how I outburst. And instead, this week, I've been celebrating that I allowed space for that kind of demonstration of big energy. And I didn't shame myself for it. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm glad I got to be assertive today, even though I was actually wrong in my assertiveness.
That is so huge, though.
Debatable.
I still did it, but it was good and it was okay. So yeah, this Hey Birdie is also for us.
Yeah.
In fact, it was for us first, and
It was first.
We'll probably continue to be. And that we're very much to quote Daniel Tiger, you've got to love yourself before you can love anyone else. So it's the same for us. It's how we're choosing, which Jess was getting into, or what we're cultivating, what we're curating in the programming. It's things that we need as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to ask you a question, since embodiment is a huge part of your practice. And I feel like that it also can be a word like pleasure, that it can shut people down to think and collapse it. Like, oh, I'm not embodying. What does that mean? Where is my body? What is your journey with embodiment, and how would you offer? Because we'll share this with our Hey Birdies. How would you invite and offer them to embrace the term embodiment?
I love this so much. Actually, I just did a podcast episode on this recently again, because I think it's such a buzzword and people are like, but what does that really mean? Right. And so I think it's the lived experience of something, right? It's like you have the lived experience of pleasure, for example, or you know what it feels like in your body to feel good. And so it's not just like, oh, I feel good, but it's like, what does that mean? So what are the sensations that you feel when you feel good, quote unquote? What are the emotions that you have? What are the thoughts that are running through you? What is the temperature of your body? Like, how do you feel when you feel good? So it's like, so you can really know what that means for yourself. And I think too, because we are from a young age really disconnected from our bodies or our urges, that sometimes it's going back to, well, I know for myself, when I first started this work, I had been in corporate America doing corporate sales and marketing for a decade. And that looked like driving all around on sales calls and not going to the bathroom when I needed to and working out religiously. And I was doing triathlons, not necessarily from a place of embodiment, but from a place of like, I want to look good and I want to be skinny, or all the horrible conditioning that I had coming along, that like the only way to be a successful person in the world is to be skinny, which I had a lot of issues around body and eating disorders for many years. So that was a lot of unlearning that I had to do. And part of that was just like, what does it feel like just to like take a walk? I remember the first time I was starting to do this work, I was like, well, I'm going to put a timer on so I know how long to go before I turn back around. It's like, no, just take a walk and just like, where do you want to go? And it just like brought me back to who I always was before I like felt like I needed to grow up. right? Because I mean, I always, from a young age, I was so creative and loved music and played a lot of different instruments and following music for so many years and lived in the mountains in a tent, so I had that like connection to nature and I loved it so much. And then I was like, oh, well, this isn't responsible. So I better get a job and buckle it up. And then what did that look like? That looked like numbing behaviors just to get through, right? Drinking too much coffee, numbing with food and all the things to not feel how miserable I was. So it was kind of like realizing like, wait a minute, this is not who you are. Let's like take off these masks and these false selves and discover who you are underneath it. And so embodiment helped me do that because then I just started to listen to like, what do I really need here? Like not just what my mind thinks I need, but what does my body need? Because, the speed of the body is a lot slower than the speed of the mind. And so when we slow down and can connect to that, we have to learn the language and it can take time. Like, what do I need right now? Like maybe I need to go to the bathroom. Maybe I need to drink some water, right? Maybe I need to eat some food. And it can start that simple. And then over time, it becomes so much more of like, I can really be in my body through whatever experience I'm having, which makes everything that you do more rich, even if it is painful or if it is hard. You can like fully be in it and sit with that discomfort and be with it. And that's how we grow and mature because we are going to be faced with hard shit. We don't get a choice. Like that's a life, that's adulting. It's not easy. You're going to have pain and you have to sit with it and choose like, all right, well, if I can be with the hard things, then I know on the other side that I'm going to grow and I can trust myself and I can trust I can gather the resources I need to move forward. And that's a big part, I think, too, of it is being able to trust yourself. So that's kind of a long-winded answer. That's kind of what I got. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So I'm curious too for y'all, because I love, it's so much fun, the community that you've cultivated. And I really want to celebrate y'all because it's been fun too to be a part of it and to share in that way. But I'm wondering if you could share with everyone, maybe if there's a question that I didn't ask that you would love to answer, or if there's some things that you want to share that you haven't been able to yet.
I think we should brag.
Ooh.
Oh, yes, I love brag. Let's hear some brags.
Brag for a minute. I was trying to feel into what I thought would be uncomfortable and go there. I want to brag on how we've had this almost innate ability. That's unfair because we have had a lot of training and a lot of amazing teachers that have guided us along the way. But we've been able to create these spaces that are palpable outside of our communities. And that is one of my most proudest moments is when our women are out in the wild, our birds are out in the wild, and they're doing their thing and they're engaging. And people are like, what? Who are they? What are they doing? How have they gotten that close? Who are they? And that energy is palpable from afar. And if we could bottle that up and sell that, I mean,
We'll have that on a t-shirt.
a little bit aside, Gabby Bernstein, Sarah Jenks, the birds are right? Like it is so incredible. So incredible. Like if we can continue to bring women together in this way where they're all like that and everyone's feeling that and they're feeling that, it gives me good hope for the future.
I would want to share when Amanda says that she's been a part of Hey Birdie, just depending on who's listening to this, they might wonder what that means. We bring in women like Amanda who have a practice, gift, profession that would benefit our birds in some way. And you then have the opportunity to witness someone like Amanda or somebody else within your flock in that safe container. And also for anybody that's listening that's interested in working with Hey Birdie in that way. We're always looking to build our pool of flight guides and collaborators.
I love that too, because I think that's one of the fun things. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I started my podcast too, is just to share all the amazing people out there that can help improve your life, right? Because there are so many and everybody has a different flavor. And, I love that because you can find what you need out there. And I love that y'all do that too. And it's fun to be able to experience, because I've also been able to experience some of your offerings and they're so much fun. And I think that I love that just inspiring empowerment of all that you have, because it is around collaboration, right? I feel like that's a big part of what I believe too. It's like, it's not competition, it's collaboration, because we all have a unique something to bring and there's something to gain from so many people. So I love that. It's like going to the ice cream store and having a million different flavors to try and be like, ooh, I like this one. I like this one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And not feeling overwhelmed by that. Right? Remember when I first started doing you can sample that. That's okay. And it's sort of like what Hey Birdie is, because it can be overwhelming to figure out should I work with? What do I want to explore? And we're providing those opportunities in our events to exposure. And then each event will help you figure out a little bit further, a little bit deeper layers of, oh, this is the direction I want to go in right now.
That part to me is so key because we have too much on our plate. So it's nice just to be able to show up. And like you say, just trust like, oh, this is going to be something fun. And I'm going to learn. I'm going to come away with a deeper understanding of myself. I'm going to come away meeting some cool new people. And that is going to be worth every minute of it, right? Yeah. So can you share too where people can find you and connect with you and learn all about your fun upcoming offerings?
Absolutely. Our website is heybirdie.co. Instagram has always got some fun behind the scenes situations. That's hey_birdie_co. And also on Facebook at Finding Your Flock. That's us.
Bird signals in the air.
I was going to say, it's like free. Nature does free branding for us. You know, if you're feeling lost, just look up, find a bird, listen for the bird song.
I love it.
Call us.
You always have really fun bird themes and puns on your Instagram page, which is really fun. And I also want to share for those of you listening, my Southern friends, is that they do have flocks in Charleston now. Yeah. So they're growing. And yeah, maybe share a little bit more about like, what's your vision for Hey Birdie? Like, how would you love to see it grow?
I feel like I want a drum roll before Heather says her token sentence here.
It also depends on my cycle, I think, or Jess and I's cycle. Some days we're okay, and some days we're like, nope, we need to take over the world. So we've had sessions where I've come to Jess and said, in my meditation this morning, I see Hey Birdie on the side of a private jet.
I'm on board. I'm on the jet.
We're like, hey, let's be just a tri-state situation. What we started to step into this year that we both are so committed to doing is growing our programming for teens and girls. In that if we can get to our girls before they got to our age to really honor themselves in the way that we are, then we're absolutely succeeding in all the ways.
And also as parents, think about it like you've always wanted to play an instrument, but you don't sign yourself up. You sign your kids up for the instrument. And so in some ways, if the mom isn't ready to commit to herself, but she sees that her daughter could benefit, then that's a great way too. And then the mom also hears the daughter coming home saying, whoa, listen to this experience we had.
That is so much fun. That is such a needed area. Yeah.
So our vision is organic in this moment. Summer, I think you probably know this as well, is a moment of pause and travel and lightness is our intention. And then coming out in August with several flight clubs throughout the remainder of the year, a migration series, and then 2025, we'll have a whole lot more offerings coming.
I'm so excited. Well, I will make sure too as well to share in the notes where you can connect and learn more about Hey Birdie or potentially join some of their upcoming flocks and migrations. And thank you both so much again for being here. Heather and Jess, it's always such a blast to be with you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. We love you.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Any last words?
I'm waiting for like nighttime readings by you. So like, every time you speak, a
few times I was like, oh.
That's a fun idea. Maybe I should just do some podcasts where I'm reading something. Like, yeah. That's a fun idea.
And maybe some like, what are the books called that have a little more
like sex? Erotica?
Erotica. I think you should read erotica. Mm-hmm.
That'll be a fun pen and cap.
Erotica, bedtime stories.
A mix of the two. Well, yay. Well, thank you all so much again.
Here's your first 2 volunteers.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again, all two, for listening, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank y'all. Thank you for listening to the Find Your Feminine Fire podcast. If you loved this episode, please go ahead and forward it right now to someone you know would love it. And if you've not had a chance yet to leave us a rave review on Apple Podcasts, please make sure to rate and review if you enjoyed it, as well as make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you want to stay connected, make sure to go to amandatesta.com/thegoods to download your free sensuality activation and stay connected. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.